I actually don't do the invoicing at Petra. I have someone else who does the invoicing at Petra. So I would want that to pop up, or at least to her to be aware. We're such a small office that most of us, it's just like when the person calls in, first of all, we're not even taking the work. If they're a bad payer, we're not taking it. We're just like, no, thank you. But anyways, or just tell them we're busy, or however it works, so they move on to the next person. But you can add extra things here. I mean, maybe your rep, maybe you want to put in his birthday. Maybe you really like the guy and you want to put in his kids' names, his wives' names, whatever. But you can define fields and add stuff right away. Job information. My jobs change for most of my, unless it's a homeowner with a driveway. But my builders, I could put in some job descriptions, some job types, the start date. I mean, this is great if you're tracking data too, as well. All right, so that completes we've set up a customer. All right, so then let's create an invoice. Or actually, you know what? I'm sorry, we're going to do items. Hey, we're going to do items. And Terry, we're going to do items. All right, so back to the home screen. All right, you go under lists, and you're going to go to item lists. All right, so here, all right, you're going to define it. Service is kind of the most common one. All right, then you're going to put the item name. You can do subcategories. So I have items for paving, seal coating, crack sealing. I don't do sweeping or infrared, but if I did, I would have items for those ones. And then I also sell seal coating products. So I have those as well. So I have categories for that. So this has I have a long list of items. You'll see it, I think, in my next slide. Just on a side note, I have to, for my accountant, pull out whoever pays by credit cards. So I have paving, and then I have a subcategory paving credit cards. So the girl that does my invoicing, if she knows they're paying by a credit card, she has to put the invoice item to paving income credit card instead. If they come back and pay later, she has to go back in and update that. Okay? And then you can put in here job description information, and then your account. Obviously, your chart of account, your account should be pointed towards the paving. So if I'm doing an item for paving, it should be pointed to my paving income. That's where I want that to go. Because when we get to financial statements, we're going to pull that all together. Okay? All right, so that was items. Does that help on items a little bit? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So now we are going to create the invoice. All right, so back to the home screen, back to customer, invoices. All right, so here is a blank invoice. All right, so we were going to go ahead, we start right at the top of the customer. You just start typing their name, same as all the other modules. Type their name or do the drop-down menu and it pops right in. Templates, you can see mine says Petra. So we like the template to have like our name at the top. You can put your logo on there. I did an advanced class a couple of years ago, and we made some invoices. That was kind of cool. So you have a lot of options there, or you can just use the one that they gave you. Either one is fine, depending on how fancy. It's like a grid formula. It's not that hard to use. I was able to do it pretty easily. The date. It's going to put today's date, which is great if that's what the date of the invoice is. Invoice number. Okay, we're back to personal preference, how you guys want it to look. I happen to use the year that we're in, the last 2 digits. So this was done, I did the presentation in 19. So 2019, so I took the 19. I did the date, which in this case was 12/31. So I did it December 31st, and then I do a dash, and I do 1. So for that day, on that day that I'm doing invoices, it reads 19/12/31-1. That is just how I do it. You can do it any way you want. You can do 1, 2, 3 to 10,000. Doesn't matter. But I like to know what day I did the invoice. So when the payment comes in and they write it down the bottom, they say invoice number, I at least know what date they're paying for and which number. So 1, 2, 3, whatever I did at 10 invoices that day. And again, QuickBooks will do them. It will actually keep that 3, 4, 5 thing going for me. It just learns from the way you do it. Go ahead.
So you can change your invoicing number, it doesn't automatically do it numerically?
You can let them do it automatically, or you can go in and make it fancy, shall we say.
We match our invoice number to our job number.
There you go.
So we search and it kind of helps be consistent.
Yeah, that would be a good one too. Absolutely. Yep. All right, so you can have that invoice number there. If you've done all your pre-work for your customer, the bill to is going to pop right in here, and then so aren't your terms. So that's kind of cool. You can add a PO number if you want to. It's up to you. We don't use POs at either the church or or Petra. Item, so you're gonna have your drop-down menu here. So if I'm doing a paving one, I can either start typing paving, or I can do a drop-down menu and paving pops in, or paving credit cards, however it's gonna go. Right here is like where this whole area is where I put my job description data. So I'll put where I am, even if it's a homeowner, I'll say job description, 123 Merrifield Lane, East Hampstead. And then below that, I have a quick description of what we did on the job. Fine grading, paving, excavating, pulled out 8 inches, that. And then you can do subsequent lines for, extras. Did they added in a walkway at the end? Do they want us to excavate someone else but not pave it? Okay, and then over here, if you sold things, you can do quantities and rates, like I was saying before. I sell seal coating products. I mostly sell sealer in like buckets of emulsion. I sell buckets of QSA or FSA, whatever you want to call it. I do some brushes. I do tips. So I have spray tips. So I do all that here, and I can put the quantity, the amount, and actually the amount like pops in, and then it just calculates over here for me. Okay. And then at the end, obviously, save and close or save and new. One more thing. Over here, customer, okay, so I'll show you in a second. So there's my list of customers. There's my list of terms. Okay, there's my list of items. I have quite a few. And then down here at the very end, you want to do a little thank you for your business. You can actually make a new one. It's 4th of July. Hey, happy 4th of July. Thanks for your business. There's a couple cute ones that says like, the job is complete, or please remit to the address above, however you want to do it. All right, so now we've got the invoice. So we sent it out to the customer, whether that was via email or printing, and now now the payments come in. So back to the home screen, back to customers, receiving payments. All right, so this is your payment module. So again here, just start typing the name or use the drop-down menu. Either one is fine. All right, you're putting in the amount of the check here. This was a check, so I can click. These are just close-off boxes. I use them because I'd like to know, like later on, if I'm going to get into it, are they going to do it via a check? Are they going to do it, do they pay me credit card? Do they pay me EFT? However they pay me. Let's see. Then the date that the check came in and the check number here. If you do credit cards, this becomes reference, and you can put that nice little authorization number right there. So then you have that handy as well. This deposit too. So you need to make sure that wherever you're sending your payment to is your bank account. Remember I told you I have 2 at the church, right? Only one of them gets payments. The other one's just sort of a restricted account with funds in it. So I have to make sure that I'm in the right account. If it's a check, I actually put it to undeposited. And then, your next module would be to do the deposit, which would then drop it into your bank statement. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. All right, so things to remember here in your payment amount. So you get a check, but this guy has thousands of projects going on with you. This is the scenario. So this is like a whole line of things that he owes you, and we're gonna hope that they're not old. All right, so Quickbooks takes this and starts at the top and starts applying it down. We don't really want to do that. We want it to go to the one that it was supposed to. So, because he may jump around on different payments, because he may close on a house sooner, so he got payment for that house, okay? And maybe that was one that was, it's not at the top of the list. So you have to make sure that this gets applied to the right one. So sometimes you have to uncheck it if there's old ones out here. And just like everybody else, I have people who owe me lots and lots of money. Not a ton, but enough to make my life miserable. And for some reason, they always get me to do another job. And they're always like, oh, but here's the check. Don't cash that till Tuesday. Like, of course not. So just be careful where you're putting it. Because, you always say, well, what about that old stuff? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm sure you're working on it.
On that note.
Yes.
Because that's probably one of the biggest challenges.
It is.
Obviously getting, and most of the time it's because you haven't routed it to the proper person. You're depending on your customer
Sometimes.
to do that.
Yeah.
And so we've learned that lesson, and we're going to incorporate that for the future. When job's completed, then we need to know who exactly is going to pay the bill.
Correct.
But are there items in QuickBooks that, and I know, and we do the online QuickBooks.
Okay.
Okay. So none of this looks the same.
I know, sorry.
That's all right. But there is off to the side where you can send reminders, and you have a
Yes.
standard letter, that
Yeah.
you send.
Correct.
is there in fact, because you have the terms that would add fees or whatever if they don't pay on time, is there in fact automatic mechanism in QuickBooks to, after 5 days past due,
Send out an
yeah, to
automatic
send and to actually start adding it to the bill?
reminder? Okay, I don't know the answer to that, but I can look it up.
It will calculate.
You think it is in the company preferences?
It will calculate the
Okay,
interest.
great.
If you set it that way from the beginning when you in your vendor profile and you show them that you want them to collect an interest in the time of your term, 10 days, 30 days, or
Perfect.
whatever it is.
Perfect.
It will calculate the interest and it will put it on there, but it also gives you the option of taking it off before you send it out.
Well, and based on what you're saying it could do, and you're commenting about this version versus the online version,
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if the online version even has the ability to go in and set up that information at the outset.
which version of QuickBooks you used?
Pro 2019.
Okay, all right, perfect.
We just renewed to 2020 just now.
Right, I may be
Or
up close.
2021, one or two, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever
Does-
just came out as a G note, I know that.
Does
Yeah.
that allow you online access? Because we have
No.
online access for our accountant then to be able to have access to that
Oh,
information.
No
Yeah, so-
online, it's just for the one, and it's just for the payroll service and for the QuickBooks, that's it.
Right,
The only way I found to get around the online access is to use the Contractor Pro or Premier Edition, or any of the Premier Editions that are desktop only, and use a remote login. So either a server, or I use Right Networks.
oh my God, don't you love them?
Yes,
I
I
do.
feel like
They're
that's been
awesome.
been
Yeah.
our saving grace.
Yep.
And it took me like a year to get to that solution.
Oh, I really like them right out of the gate, they were great.
Right Networks.
Yeah,
So they
right.
want
It's
us
not
to
very
switch over to
expensive.
live, it sounds like everybody's saying not to switch over to live, huh?
To online?
Online.
Yeah, you're gonna go backwards, you're not gonna have the same abilities that you have in QuickBooks Pro.
You pay for the class right there.
Could you say more about Right Network?
Say a little bit more about Right Networks. Right Networks is they're a support group, so they actually host your QuickBooks on the cloud. And then what's really cool is they also do your updates, which is kind of neat. And they are available 24/7, and super important, they're local.
Like
Like,
the best customer service.
unbelievable. Like when I got a guy that was in New Hampshire, I was like thrilled. Because I don't want somebody reading off a script. It really, I don't know, for some reason, I have very low blood pressure, but it makes my blood pressure go way up. So I don't want somebody reading off a script. So Right Networks, fantastic. And they host it, they take care of everything. They tell you when there's gonna be, I don't think they've ever been down on something, but,
I've never had any problems with them.
right, yeah.
I'm not
And then,
affiliated with them in any way, but
right, and
their
they're,
support is terrible.
right,
Even if you're in the priority level, they're terrible. I'm also not affiliated with them.
right.
So they offer consultation services then, Right Network, if
I
you
mean,
have a
I
question?
pay a monthly fee
Right,
for it.
right.
I
Like
pay
the
a monthly
archive
fee in addition to my QuickBooks monthly fee.
Yes,
So,
right,
but
yeah,
it's worth every penny of it.
Right.
I'm a business owner, but I mean, that's,
right. And you know, the only other thing, I don't know if you found this with Right Network, so they had this thing where Microsoft Excel, we'll get to it in a minute when or further down the presentation, where we talk about you can scan and then download, if you can put a report into Excel. Microsoft changed it, they no longer have Excel out there for free. So the only other thing I had to do through Right Networks was I had to pay, it was $5, now it's up to $15. I pay it per month, actually it was $6, it was something ridiculous. So I have to pay for Excel out on the cloud so that I can download it in their module. But super easy, I put their desktop tool on all my computers. And there's a wizard that helps you get it there, and then you can get to your QuickBooks anywhere you are. It's awesome. As long as you have internet, as long as you have internet, yep.
So I'm just trying to clarify this, Right Networks.
Yep.
They host your QuickBooks account, and then you're essentially remote accessing in?
yeah,
Yep.
like I'm on my QuickBooks right now through a remote network, but I have a desktop
Yep.
contractor's version.
I see.
And we've got multiple users, so like the ladies at my office, they just, even though they're in the office on their desktop computer, they still remote in through Right Networks.
And then your
Right.
accountant, if your accountant can remote in as well.
Same thing, yep.
If they have a Right Networks login. I don't pay
Right.
for my accountant to, I just have them
Correct.
come to my office randomly.
Right, so one of my like peer type people, she actually does bookkeeping for a bunch of people in the area, and they have Right Networks. So I actually called Right Networks the other day because she called me and she was like, do I have to have like a module for each one? And they said no. So they could, like if your accountant had more than one customer that uses Right Networks, they can actually go in and they could see they could pick from the list. Yeah, which is kind of cool. It might be confusing. So it's up to you. They could have the little desktop bubbles for Right Networks for each of their companies if you were an accounting professional, or you could just have one to go into. But I have QuickBooks like on my laptop. I have for the charts on the laptop, at Petra, at home, and they're all sitting on the desktop, and all I need is internet. I can do it from I can also get there from my iPad. Little bit tricky on the iPad, but I can do it. You have a question?
Excuse me. So why do you use Enterprise if you can use Right Networks to just remote log in? We have accountants at our company who live across the country, and our headquarters is in Minneapolis, and they log in remotely, like you said that your people do. What's the point of Enterprise at that point?
So I have, at the church, I actually have users that I don't share. We don't have an office, so we're all part-timers. So the other girl was in a different location. So I wanted QuickBooks Enterprises because I could have multiple users at the time. Like, you have to buy an online subscription for Pro or Premier by person and then load it on their computer. So it was actually more cost effective to just go to QuickBooks Enterprises and pay one fee that we all could use. So it was basically, I didn't want to pay for all the user licenses. That was it. And now at Petra, I put it on my server, so I'm just paying for one license, and we remote into the server, but it's an in-house server, like right in the office. So at the church, I'm in my home in Hampstead, and she lives 2 towns over in Sandown. So we could all get in there from here. And then I have the peer person, she's also the financial chairperson, she's in a different town. So we could all come in, I gave them all logins to get in. But the only way to handle that, to put it online, was QuickBooks Enterprise. A little bit pricey, but again, I thought it outweighed. I needed 4 users, which, I mean, what was that? Like, it was like $1,300, $1,400 by the time I was done, maybe even $1,500. Paid $1,000 for Enterprise done. I was like, okay, I think I'll take that. And it's just, and I have to do all this, like what you guys are saying about the online version, that wasn't what I needed. I need to do journal entries, I need to do amortization, I need a lot more to do that. I couldn't do that just on the online version. So I had to pop up to Enterprise.
So eventually you only have one login ID?
No, I can set up users. So that was another thing. So Jennifer, who does my invoicing, we actually share the same office. There's a way here in your preferences and within your users, and I put those down. I didn't want her on payroll, and I didn't. So she can't go on payroll and a couple other things, and you actually just check them off what she can get. It was really easy, and she has her own login ID. So, and that worked out good. I do the same thing at the church, even though it's Enterprise. She has her own login, and again, she's not in payroll and a couple other modules. So, okay, cool. All right, let's see. Customer payment, we talked about that. All right, I think we're down to printing. All right. Oh, all right. So here's where I started. You can see where this is a good one because I didn't put my terms in. So Dreamscape development, I put in the payment amount. I checked this off because that's the one that we were talking about, that there'd be a list here. This is just one, so I checked that off. It's a check. And then I hit save and close. Excuse me. All right, so here's a copy of a paid invoice for that Dreamscape development. You can see my item is paving, my job location. Here's what we did for the customer. And then here is the amount that they're gonna owe me, or they did owe me. I applied the payment, so you can see it says paid, and then my amount due is 0. And again, sidebar, awesome for checking out stuff and just sort of, a quick reminder of what they've done or what they still have outstanding. Right, if you wanted to do the email, it's right here, email. You would click email. This is for printing. Did I do the email? No. Okay. It's going to bring up this box. So you can see what I told you guys to do about entering that email address. I didn't even do it. So I could actually type it here because maybe I was in a hurry. So I would type it here, hit OK, and it automatically emails emails it to them. So I thought that was pretty snazzy. Here, I can print it, I can print the invoice, I can print a preview, and then I would take this and maybe put it in the mail, depending on how the customer wants it. All right, so that wraps up AR. Any questions on accounts receivable? Okay, we're doing good with questions. Thank you for jumping in. You guys are doing great. All right, estimates. All right, so QuickBooks has an estimate module. All right, again, you would go to, you go to customers, and then it says estimate, and it pulls up a nice little form here. You're going to type in or just do a drop-down menu on your vendor, on your customer. So again, this is, you send your salesman out, he comes back, he's going to do an estimate, okay? You can create it right in QuickBooks. They actually number themselves, so this one looks just like 1, 2, 3, 4. Didn't really do anything special here. Their data fills right in here. I would put in what the item is that we're going to do for them. Maybe it's seal coating this time. All my data, I'm not selling them anything, so that's good, so no quantities, and then a total, all right? So it creates this, the estimate, then I can send this to them, email, print, whichever the case may be. Then, okay, so here's me pulling down all my different customers. Then you can convert this in one push of a button to an invoice. So right on the top of that estimate, you go back in, call up that estimate to whoever you wanted. So the estimate went out, you did the job, and now they're saying, okay, we're finished, and we want an invoice for payment. So you just come out here and you click create invoice, and it converts this estimate right to an invoice. Pretty snazzy. You have a question?
Would you have to add the customer in first before on a different page rather than on the estimate page?
It's still linked to all your customers, so if it's a new customer, you would have to add it in.
So you have to go there first and then?
Yep. So I don't know if we can, let me go back there for a second.
I just didn't know if you could.
See where it says add new?
Okay.
You can add a new one right there. You don't have to go back to that customer center module, I think is what you're asking, right?
Yes.
So you can do it here, and it actually just brings you right over to that. Yep.
So does your paving company use the estimate feature?
No, I created one in Excel, and we can implement it with this one.
So after your salespeople do the estimates in Excel and send them out, does somebody in your office key them in, or you skip that step?
Well, not every estimate turns into a job, as we know. So actually, my estimators, we don't let them email. We don't trust them. My Excel spreadsheet that I created, it has like bazillions of tabs because I have it every which way to Sunday, so that if they're going to do a 3-inch 2 coat, a 2-inch 1 coat, if they're going to just do a top coat, if we're going to do seal coating. And I actually have, I created worksheets behind each one of the invoices that basically they put all their data in, and it just pulls the price forward, and then they just have to say what they're going to do. They just have to type that in. We actually, in Excel, there's a drawing tool, and I downloaded the drawing tools, and they're all schooled in it. I'm horrible at it. I shake like all over the place. But they can make like really pretty pictures of like parking lots, of driveways. So the customer gets a picture with the price on it and a description of what we're going to do. So then that goes, so each one of the estimators, as they're out and about, they have a hotspot in their pickup with their laptop and a printer and folders, nice little Petra folders. So when you're at the customer, they go to the customer, they draw it all out, they talk about it, they go back to the pickup, they draw it all out, they print it all out, put it in a nice little presentation folder and go back up and present it. And then before they're leaving the job, which again I'm laughing because sometimes they just don't do it. And Miss Haley is here. She is the wife of one of my foremen, so I can make fun of her husband. Ben never does this, but he's supposed to hit the button which saves it to the cloud. Okay, so I have what's called a OneDrive. So that OneDrive talks to the office. So it sits out on the OneDrive. As soon as he does it, he's supposed to save it to the OneDrive. Then, because we used to get people, the guy would be driving with the pickup out of the driveway, and they'd be going, yeah, I'd like you to do the job. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I gotta wait till that guy gets back to the office to download his computer. And, oh, but wait, he went home, he didn't come to the office. So I have everything out to the cloud on a OneDrive. So my girls in the office, they can go right out there, pick it right out, print it, and get the job, set up on the confirmation list. So I use an Excel format. Then, as you know, not every estimate turns into an invoice, but when it does, they can just use a copy-paste function from Excel and then just pop it right into this. This one didn't have everything my boss wanted, so that's why we don't use it. But I did want to bring it to your attention because I think I mean, if you're just gonna do this without a picture, that's cool. Also, and we'll talk about it later, you can actually attach the photos here as well as other direction, like a Google, like if you do a Google Earth and mark it up, you can actually scan it and attach it into QuickBooks. So to me, this made this a little bit more robust, but when I first started at Petra 17 years ago, this was not in existence, so we didn't use it. All right, so estimates. So we click it over and that's the end of it. That's what I have for estimates, very short. All right, so now we're gonna talk about payroll, get into some stuff. All right. Does everybody in here do their own payroll? No, you send it out? You do your own payroll?
Can I ask you a question about the estimate
Sure.
portion? So at your company then, when estimate does turn into a sold project,
Yep.
do you use that estimate function and import your project estimate into it and then do billing on it?
I don't,
No.
no. What
You
I
just
do is-
invoice,
I invoice, right, so what she does is she has the invoice up on one of her screens. She has a copy paste function of the item, of what they did. I mean, sometimes it's a two-line thing, but most of the time she's just copying it from the Excel and then plopping it into the invoice portion, customer invoice portion. So I'm only using the invoice portion, I'm not using the estimate portion because it just, my boss, again, he's not in the room, so we can talk about him. I'm very particular about how it looks. But I gotta tell you, I mean, if I send you guys a copy of what my estimates look like, they're awesome. They're awesome. And these guys can draw like, I mean, I had one guy who used to draw on stone walls. I'd be like, do you have too much time on your hands? I mean, get to the next customer, please. You know what I mean? But,
I'm just curious because a lot of our projects, so we use accounting software right now that is being discontinued and we're being forced to get into something else and
okay.
hence my presence here. But we do progress billing on our projects, so if
Yep.
there's a $1 million project and they're gonna get billed monthly, we have to set them up, excuse me, in the estimate function.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if QuickBooks has a function like that where you can set up the estimate, excuse me, and
it's
then
contagious.
do that progress billing from that function. Do you know how that would work?
Do you use it?
We do AIA documents for our progress billing, and our project managers send the AIA out. They copy our accounting department, which is me and one other lady, and we just enter them in as separate invoices in our system. So, and the separate invoices are the job number, and it's -1, -2, -3, because the AIAs you manually number 1, 2, 3, or whatever. So that's the only way I know how to do it.
So,
QuickBooks is so sophisticated in my mind on like a lot of the like true accounting, like the GL and the accounts, and it's so dumb in other ways, even like that right
I know,
there.
and you don't want to have more than one.
But it's like, unless
I,
you jump up to some like really, 6-figure software.
right, something custom.
Yeah.
So
I have
like when I worked in the
anything.
corporate industry, it would have something that would do
Yeah.
everything. So, but I mean, QuickBooks is going to get you 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
so are you able to have a working progress schedule then that you can print out a report and it says, all of these different projects are this % complete? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, and I'm not sure because we do a driveway, we do a parking lot, it's all like, we're completed. I mean, if it goes to the next week, it was probably weather related.
Yes,
I'm
there
not
is.
freaking out.
There is?
QuickBooks, yes.
Okay.
Tell us
There
about
is.
it, because
Yeah.
I need to know.
Like, my thing is gonna die, but you can take now, we start with estimates, but create an invoice, and it'll ask you, do you wanna do the whole thing? Do you wanna do a percentage? Do you wanna do specific amounts? And you can go in and line by line,
Okay.
make your choices from there, and that's how we do our progress payments, basically, for some of the ones that don't use the AIA
And see, we don't
forms.
do estimates, that's
Yeah.
in QuickBooks, we do estimates in other programs.
Yep.
And that's been a big rub with my accountant, is that we don't start the whole
Thing,
process.
the whole, yeah,
Right.
yeah, but it's possible. And that's even through the online one.
Okay.
I'm doing it there, so I'm sure the pro,
Yeah, it's
is-
going to be available. Right.
yeah,
Right,
super
which is-
available.
And you know, what, I mean, my other problem with doing like the estimates in there is, I gotta tell you, I don't want my sales guys in my QuickBooks.
Yeah.
I know, I'm like really possessive about my accounting
I'm
data.
surprised that
So,
construction
But yeah, maybe
wouldn't
like,
have
she
that.
can, we can take a look at it too.
And maybe it does, and I just don't know how to use it. Our problem is like, when it's a work in progress and you're trying to track like, tonnage laid that day or hours worked, all of that's not feeding into QuickBooks in real time anywhere, right? Like the materials for us anyways are being entered by the bill, we get the tickets, and then a couple days later we get the bill from the plant. And then like the time, we use an app for time tracking, and that imports, but it's a manual import, we just do a couple of times
Yeah.
a week. So there's nothing, I haven't found any features in real time that show me job reports and job costing, except for pulling a job report and then manually having the office admin compare it to any tickets that have came in. So we have trouble with that, because we do everything from driveways to,
Yeah.
big jobs,
Yeah.
so that
It's
could
the same
span
thing.
months.
Yeah, we don't have any dirt. We don't usually have jobs that go over several days. It's like, 2 days is like the most.
This ought not to be. I mean, there should be one program
There should be.
that you enter the customer's information when you receive it from the beginning,
We'll all buy it.
Yeah.
and that it goes completely through. Now, we use payment layers
Okay.
as
I
our
know somebody
proposal
copied
program,
the floor.
and last year they integrated it with QuickBooks.
Yep,
But as of yet, I've not been able to get it to work, to translate. All I needed to do is translate the information, customer information into QuickBooks. So that, because I spend too much time, pulling that same information that we've already entered in one program over into QuickBooks.
yeah.
And so we're gonna explore that a little more this
Okay.
year to see, in
Yep.
fact, not only them, but there are a couple other different customer proposal type programs.
Yep,
here.
awesome. I know, that would solve everything, right? One program.
Well, and I don't like entering estimates, because I don't want to junk up my QuickBooks with
Yeah, that's
inactive
the-
vendors of,
Yeah.
you put out 1,000 estimates a year, but you might only
Yep,
have
absolutely.
300 customers, so
Right.
I don't want to
Yep.
junk it up. So you really need an end-to-end solution. You need the CRM with the
Yeah,
prospects,
so we're all
Yes,
still.
We're in
all the
2020.
way to the billing.
I know.
This is year 2020. I mean, we've been, having the full integration
Great.
back in, mid-90s when I
Right.
was in the Air Force. That was, the whole idea was enter it once and you get that
Right.
same information
Well,
throughout the
look how
system.
far we've come already.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like every year we come a little bit further, right? So it's like, it's one of those things, we go a little further every time. So hopefully we'll see how next year looks, right? All right, let's talk about payroll. Great, okay. We're doing good on time. All right, so what you're gonna need to add an employee to payroll, obviously their legal name, their address, phone number, date of hire, a Form W-4, which is their withholding allowance certificate, an I-9, which is their employee eligibility verification, a payroll subscription, rate of pay, and other deductions. Let's go back to that payroll description. In order to use QuickBooks payroll, you have to have a payroll subscription. It does not come with your software. So this is something on top, which I'm sure you're all aware of at this point. And it is not cheap either, but it is fantastic because it updates all your forms. You don't have to be the tax professional and know all the state laws and all the changes that are coming through. They're going to do that for you, tells you when there's an update, and and what's your first name? Jessica, like we were talking about with Right Networks, I actually get like an email that you have a payroll update. So I can either do it, or if I wait long enough, Right Networks does it. But it takes like 30 seconds to hit, boop, get updates, done, all set. All right, so again, we're back at our famous little home screen. Okay, we're gonna go to employees. Okay, and we're gonna go to Employee Center to set up an employee. All right, so here we're back at this one here. We're gonna say, and this is my fun company, Rock'em Sock'em Papers. So this is a new employee. Obviously, he has no new employees yet. So you're gonna go to new employee. Okay, and again, same format, 5 tabs, same screen. More information is better information. Let's talk about employee folders in your office. I did have a DOT audit once. I actually have an IFTA audit coming up, can't wait. So the DOT guy came in, because we had an accident, and I was, they're like, tell your office person to sit still, and I'm like, why should I sit still? I didn't drive the truck off the road. But the guy comes in, he's like, I need to see all your employee folders. I'm like, okay. So he made sure that I had a bunch of, I was only missing like 2 things. One of them was a Form I-9. So since like 1974, you're supposed to have, whether they're a U.S. citizen or not. So you have to have that in their folder. They fill it out, they attach backup for you. You should have attached the backup, and you can actually scan it into QuickBooks and have it there. He told me I needed their most current and updated W-4 their employee application or their resume, and I think, hopefully this is in your book, your I-9, a copy of a obviously current and not expired health card, their driver's license, a driver history. This one was a new one at the time that he told me. So I had so you fill out a form and you get a certified copy from the Department of Motor Vehicles of their driver history. And then in our company, we have a handbook. So we have orientation, everybody fills out and signs that they've read the handbook, and I have them sign a bunch of other things too, and I have that in their folder as well. So you want to make sure that your employee file folders are up to date every year. I actually just did mine last week, and then I just make a note at orientation of what I'm missing. So, all right, so we're going to set up a payroll item. Well, actually, we're going to set up the new employee first. Okay, so put in their name, social security. Again, how we want the name to print on the check. I know it sounds silly, but I just had a guy, I've always called him Bill, okay? He gives me his W-4. His name is Gordon. I'm like, what? So he's Gordon William Hale. I'm like, oh, okay, so fine. So Bill Hale goes on his check, but Gordon William is going to go on his information here because that's what I want to print on his W-2. Gender, all the usual stuff. Are they on disability, military background? Here's where you put it if you have an I-9 on file or if they have a work authorization that needs to be taken care of if it expires. Address information goes here. A couple of years ago at Petra, I started handing out at orientation emergency contact info because I realized that I have a cell phone number for all the guys, but if they got hurt, who would I call? I mean, I have young guys, so I have to call their mother, but do I really know their mother? No. Or do I have to call their wife? So, quick story, and I know Haley will enjoy this because she's over here. So I hand out the form, and at the time, Haley and Ben were engaged. Actually, I think it was before you were engaged. And so Ben puts down, who's his emergency contact? Haley Sharp. I'm like, okay. And I said, you have to put a relationship name. He put lady friend. So and if you know Ben's tons of fun. And I was just like,
Roommate.
so I actually have a new category called lady friend. I have moved you to wife. All right. Account number, for additional information, we have time cards. We have an old antiquated time clock machine. It's my winter project to get a nice one that I don't have to go, oh God, if the power's out, I have no time clock. Oh, and it doesn't do daylight savings time. So the guys come in and they're like, time clock's wrong. I'm like, someday I'll get a new one. I actually put their card number here just for information. Payroll information is really the meat of it. Okay, at Petra, I use an item named hourly, salary, and overtime. That's it. At the church, for some reason, the person before me put it in by your title. So in that one, mine says treasurer. If you were the janitor, it says janitor. So you can set up items here for those names and put in whether you're hourly or salary, your pay frequency. Other items, additions, deductions, and company contributions. So this is where your 401k, pre-medical, pre-dental, garnishments, child supports, and they'll make a bad face in your book. You'll see it. Employee loans, not my favorite, but they do happen. So that information goes here. Those are all deductions. I actually have one addition. We found that people, we give them a company cell phone, and of course, we're so generous, we only give them a flip phone, we don't give them a smartphone. Nobody liked to carry two phones, and I don't blame them. And nobody wanted to use the flip phone because, you're trying to text with the numbers and it takes all day. So we actually say every month we will give you $25 because that's what it costs me to get you a company cell phone, a silly little flip phone. I'll give you $25 a month if I can use your cell phone number to contact you, your personal cell phone number. So that goes here as an addition. And I have certain employees that are set up on that. I have some that waive that. They're like, no, I want a company phone. I'm like, okay, fine, get you a flip phone. So you have that in there. Then over here in the background, direct deposit is available. We don't do that at Petra. It's a really long story, but my guys like to go from the office straight to the bank where they get a fistful of cash, I guess. I don't know. They're not sophisticated. Some of them don't even have checking accounts. Whole nother story, right? Right? It happens. All right, taxes. Right? We all see. Yeah, you're all shaking hands, don't we know? All right, taxes. We've got 3 modules here, federal, state, and other. So again, this is based on the W-4 that they filled out when they started for you to employee. They can't be on payroll if they don't have a W-4. It just has to be. All right, whether they're single, married, or married, calculating at the single rate. number of allowances, if they want extra withholdings. QuickBooks is gonna fill some of this in for you, Medicare's, Social Security and your FUTA, unless, I suggest leaving it, because, again, it's hooked to the taxes, so they know what you're supposed to be taking. Or, most of it kind of makes common sense, that's what we get taxed on as an employee. State, because I'm right on the border of Massachusetts, one of my admins, she works in New Hampshire, but she lives in Massachusetts. So I have state work, New Hampshire, she's subject to mass withholding taxes as well. So I pay mass withholding taxes on a quarterly basis. Again, going to depend on your state, talk to your accountants, make sure you've got all your state taxes covered, all right? At the church too, I actually have campuses in Massachusetts, so then it's like almost backwards to this, but it's the same thing. You've got to take care of it. Other, Medicaid employee additional tax, and in New Hampshire, we have a little admin contribution that the company pays as well. So that's going to be captured here. And then we would just say, okay. I thought this button was neat, sick and vacation. Petra, no sick, no vacation. Everybody's perfect, but nobody gets vacation. We are seasonal. We only work April till like mid-December. That's it. So we don't actually give anybody a set vacation. We are also very small. We're like there's 5 guys on my bathing crew. One guy's out, it's like literally all hell breaks loose. So, and then somebody's gonna do double time. So we don't actually have a vacation program, but I thought this was a neat little module. It'll help you tell what's available, what they have available for vacation, the hours that they might have used, when it starts, if it accrues, and it would print out on their checks, which is kind of neat. So I like that module, but I don't use that one. All right, so next tab is employment information. So I do use this tab for hire date, any little employee details that I might need to put, any job description stuff that I might want to attach or add in here. Leave of absence, same thing. It's right here for you to use. Again, this is just information that QuickBooks helps you collect. I totally use the termination module. This helps me in case they're on benefits. I know to take them off benefits. I know to take them off 401k. You know what I mean? Like, so that they don't have their, it just stops taking from, there's no check anyways. I like to put a reason in here because for some reason, like after a month when you're like desperate for a new guy and that old guy that you terminated before starts looking good, I like to go back and remind the boss, like, this is why we terminated them. Or did you, like, all of a sudden they just forget. So I've also had guys that have come and gone, so I have multiple things in here by date. Let's see. Workers' comp. So when you click on this module, they try to sell you workers' comp insurance. I am sure we all can get better insurance rates, not from QuickBooks. But it is there if you need it. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, we're back to the people I think we're going to go into. All right, so here's me paying an employee, was myself, if I was hourly. So I've already preloaded me, Linda M. Alfonsi. I have my hourly rate, okay? So then I go to my antiquated time card, or my time clock. I pull down my hours, so I have that in hand. I also have checks that are obviously like that are QuickBooks compatible. All right, so I'm ready to go. I check my date. Y'all pay payroll different. Petra, we pay 1 week in arrears. At the church, I pay for the week that you're in. So it's a little bit different. So as I do my 2 different jobs, I have to kind of think about what am I paying and what company I'm at. Let's see, I don't have any other payroll items coming out, but you can see it's all set to take my taxes. Here I did 9 hours. I put the 9 in, it just calculates it at my $20 an hour and my taxes, boom, and I hit save and close.
Don't you wish it was that easy?
I do wish it was that easy.
That's why I'm asking you. Don't you wish it was that easy?
I do, I really do.
That's why this man right here needs to understand payroll gets turned in on Monday, but paid on Friday.
Right, because it takes us time to do payroll.
It takes time. It really does. It takes time.
Yep, exactly. So then I would click on who I'm going to pay and hit create paycheck. All right, and there's my paycheck. Again, I'm going to go over, I'm going to make sure my check number is the first one that starts here, so I make sure that I'm starting on the right foot, and I can just click OK. And again, this is, and I also make sure I'm paying out of the right account. As you can see, I switched to the church here, so I have my unrestricted account. All right, so other things, just quick information on payroll. Payroll liabilities. All right, payroll liabilities, super important. Do not mess with not paying your payroll liabilities. I actually know a company that did that, and that was not pretty. The taxes and the interest and the penalties was amazing, but you've got to pay your payroll liabilities. They are paid quarterly. They're done in QuickBooks. You just hit the button under forms, under the payroll forms, pull it in, payroll liabilities, 941, fill it in, make sure it's good. Always, always, always tie to another source, not within QuickBooks. And if you don't have another source, is it reasonable? Okay, so just, you've got to make sure that that's done.
And if they're one day late, they charge you 10% interest too.
Yes, yes, they do. You get a little
10%.
slap on the wrist. Yep, yep. So, and then state payroll taxes. Again, this is going to be subject to your state. I know I have some payroll taxes that are due quarterly. I have some that are due annually. I have some that are due weekly. My payroll liabilities, just for instance, Petra, I pay them weekly because the IRS has directed me to do so. But at the church, I pay them monthly. So a little confusing. Just have to keep it all straight.
They don't want you keeping their money.
And yes, this is true. So the 941, the 940, the W-2s, and the 1099s. Your fourth quarter 941, 940, W-2s, 1099s, just so you know, they're due tomorrow. So hopefully you've all done them. Unlike me, you already know my secret. I have not done my 1099s at either company. So just make sure you get those done. Make sure you get them in on time. Quickbooks, they do all these reports for you, but just remember to tie them onto a source, and you need that payroll subscription to do payroll. Okay? A W-4, you should keep it on hand for 4 years, even after the employee leaves or is terminated. An I-9, you need to keep it on hand 1 year after the term date. Make sure you make copies of their identification, because if it ever came back to you, you'd want to state, and they said, oh, they're not a U.S. citizen. You'd be like, well, they gave me this information. Okay, so, I mean, we're not fraud detectors, so at least you would have the information to keep yourself safe. All this information can be scanned and attached within QuickBooks, which brings us to financial reports. How are we doing on time? Okay, we got a few more minutes. All right, financial reports. Do you have any questions on payroll? I know it's a lot, and I know it's fast. Okay, all right. Financial reports. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of reports that you can do from QuickBooks. You can even make your own reports, which I do. I like making my own. They come with all the basic ones, okay? So if we go to reports, we're going to look at a standard P&L, all right? So you select company, or actually reports, company financial, and then P&L. All right, so here is a P&L for just a quick snapshot of way back in 2015, October 1st through the 22nd, okay? Very concise, all right? Again, you have one of my favorites, because in case you have to send it to someone for like financial information, you can kind of collapse it so that they're not looking at all your line items. Or if you're in the office and need to see all your line items, they're all here. Then I like you to go over here and customize this report. So I want to see this as a percent of income. So I hit custom report, and it comes up with this little box, and I've got 4 tabs. I go to display, and I can click off percent of income. Or you can go into company preferences, and I actually have expense and income both checked off. So I like looking at that all the time. I like percentages, works for me. All right, so then this is what it would look like as a percent of income. So here was that standard P&L that we just had, and here's a percent of income. So gross profit is a 68.4% of my paving income. All right, here's your balance sheet that they give you. Again, very standard, but it's kind of all you need. And again, you can do these you can do P&L comparisons. I like that QuickBooks has a budget function, because I'm big into budgets. I do my budget separate, and then I pop it into QuickBooks, and then it'll do a budget to actual, which is really handy. So that's another feature that's in here. All right, so let's just say on this P&L, I want to drop it down into, thank you. I got a 5-minute sign, that's awesome. I didn't know I was going to get one of those. All right, so you can drop it down into Excel. Do you guys use this feature to pull down into Excel your QuickBooks? So I pull it right down into QuickBooks, and then I can manipulate the data. I can, sort of like look at it in a different way. Maybe I want to send it to someone that way. But it is available right here. And this is what it looks like. It says send report to Excel, create new worksheet. It goes into a new worksheet and just hit export. Okay. Some other helpful tips about QuickBooks. It does have a scanning module. You can attach pictures to your estimates, but as I said before, those do not transfer and convert to an invoice. And you can set up memorized transactions. So the scanning function was right here. Company, document, doc center. Yep, I think that was all I had there. And then it pulls it up, and you can just, you scan it, and then you can attach it where you need to. For memorized transactions, this is kind of one of my favorites. I do this for rent, so it just keeps coming up, and it reminds me, it's just like, oh, by the way, you have a rent amount coming up. Do you want me to import it? And I'm like, oh, okay. So it just imports the same, because it's the same vendor payment every month, for me anyways. So here it is. You can also, let's just say I went down to the local hardware store and my guys are constantly buying like, I don't know, steaks or whatever, and I want to set that up as a reoccurring. When I'm in my vendor bill pay, there's a little button called memorize, and then I can memorize the transaction here too. So you get a couple different options for that. Go ahead.
Does it let you drag and drop a copy of like a PDF of the invoice into each transaction?
Drag and drop. I know, I wonder if you have, I think you can. Have you done that before, Jessica?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If you can drag and drop, like, you know, our accountants are using 2 screens, and so they have like all of our field people are uploading the copies of the invoices, they scan them, and then they go to Dropbox, and then our accountants are working remotely from wherever. And then they just drag and drop it into the
Yeah, because you
bill.
can attach a file.
Yeah, attach a
Yeah,
file.
yeah,
I
you
don't
can
know, I
attach a
haven't
file.
done that.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I know.
So on that bill, when you enter the information, then you can
Yeah,
attach
there's
it.
it should be like right along here, it's like an attached file kind of function. Again, it's probably in the either Pro or Premier version, it's not gonna be in the online version.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Another question.
yeah,
Back on that last screen,
this
see
one?
where you've got billable, is that $6.33? I know it's only $6.33, but.
Yeah,
It doesn't show up anywhere as being billed against a job. And the question I have for you is, I have difficulty with overhead items not being billed out. When you run a profit loss on a job,
yeah,
it doesn't show you
That's why
truly
you have
what
to have
you-
the contractor's edition. The contractor's edition is the only edition that you can bill directly to a job.
I can do the non-direct expenses to a job, you're saying?
No, you can only bill direct cost to a
Direct.
job. Indirect hits your P&L in a totally different place.
Right, yeah, I know, that's
Right.
right. And that's where,
right, but your indirect, your overhead stuff should already be in your pricing to begin with.
oh, it is.
Right.
But I'm just trying to always tweak it at all times.
Oh.
I want to be up to date yearly. I don't have a chance to do it monthly
Right.
like that, but.
Okay, yeah, no, I only do it yearly.
Right, if
I
I do it as a
yearly
winter
in States.
project, then I'm in good. And I'll take everything that's not been billed, and I know it's not right, but it goes in one category, divide it by amount of days, there's my overhead.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
it's your total G&A expenses. That's
cheapest,
the, well,
most
that's the
logical way to
fastest
do
way
it.
to do it. We're gonna address that in the budget class tomorrow
Okay.
too. Yeah, I mean, ours is, we do it right down to the man hour, because my boss again.
Well, we do it to the man hour too.
Yep, and he's like wicked heavy into the man hours, but
I'm
he's
not gonna
doing
take
the
that
class
class
with me.
then, huh?
Yeah, but that's 10 o'clock,
All right.
all right? But yeah, you can use can you use this billable function too, Jessica? Do you use this one at all? Customer and then billable, it's a check mark.
Right, I know.
But
But
yeah,
the
no,
billable, when
no,
you
the
click on
billable-
billable, it
But
comes
that's
down to
direct.
job.
Billable check mark just hits your invoice.
Okay.
What we do is we have but I have all my customers
Yeah.
by job. So it's
Right.
like a workaround that my accountant showed me, but it's the job number, the customer's name, and the location is the name of the customer, and then that gets tagged to every, like, material bill,
Yeah.
or, the time, everything is coded to the job.
Right, that's,
So it's-
I'm good with material bills coming, and they
It's
say what
it's
job it
overhead
is.
stuff, yeah, yeah.
What about the $40,000 in insurance and $65,000 in?
Right, I try, on my overheads, right in the original price.
You know
list.
what I'm trying to do.
I don't tweak it, so.
That's
it
the
is what it
percentage
is.
of labor.
Class is over. Thank you so much all for being here, I really enjoyed it, thank you very much for coming. And Dana, if anybody wants the slide presentation, there's a sign-up sheet at the back, the front, and the super front.
This is good.